The neuroconceptual circuit in the evolution of the nervous system has to do with the concepts, with how I look at myself, how I see myself. It has to do with the emission of sounds, how the larynx and the pharynx are developed. What do I provoke with that which I communicate? It has to do with the creation of symbols. And in humankind's history, it has to do with Paleolithic history. We see that in the didactic workshop. In the Paleolithic age, writing was developed, barter, money, the first superhero history, Gilgamesh. There's a series of things that are taught that has to do with the development of our concept. Like the other circuits, there's a reception, there's an increment of intelligence, and there's a fusion. In the didactic workshop, we see, for example, when a person doesn't know what he is good for, who he is, he's usually delayed in how he integrates to society and he doesn't find his place. This we see in this work. How did we end up here? There's a work that we do about the restriction theory. Once we already move, we run, we start saying words, yes, no, mine, yours. Once all of this starts, we're talking about this conceptual circuit. And restrictions start to happen. Okay, this you can do, this you cannot do. You have to share, you have to do certain things. Don't do this. You have to do it a certain way. If you do this, bap, slap. All of the things are the restrictions that take all the inherited chemistry to get adjusted. Since the intrauterine chemistry, it gets adjusted in the concept that I generate towards who I am. All of this is told to me since the intrauterine chemistry. It's told to me by the emotionality that is impressed through the feeding, hygiene, contact, and affection. It's told to me in how I overcame gravity in order to reach my territories. And on top of it, it's reaffirmed in how things should be for me. This is what we see in this circuit. How does understanding this process affects the regulation towards more favorable conditions for me? It gives me a truer concept about myself. There's people that have a super concept about themselves. Finally, in the end, they are the oral dependent, the suckers, the ones that depend a lot on what they say. But the facts of life don't correspond to what they say. In the end, they don't get taken into consideration. Others are the opposite. They do a lot, they're silent, you don't see them, but they're also not taken into consideration. So the balance between the concept and the relationship that I have out there and towards me is fundamental to understand something really important that today in society is not understood. People are usually seeking to be independent. They don't want to depend. Okay? And that part we see in this circuit, in the didactic workshops. Why? Because dependence has a cousin, which is independence. Independence doesn't exist in any way. In 1934, for the first time, an Australian and a Japanese isolated a particle from the universe so it couldn't have entropy, so it didn't have wear. There, it can happen, but over here, we're in a chain of interactions, relationships, economical services, and that is called interdependence. There's nobody that's independent. There's a state that you can feel independent, but even if you have a super business, it depends on if they buy from you. On the supply chain, it depends that there's no crisis or the fact that your product is fashionable. So the people want it. Independence is the same as dependence. The thing that we have to look for is interdependence. The problems that we have with globalization nowadays is this: the fact that people are not educated since they're kids for an interdependence. It's not how much it's worth what I do, but what I do, how much does it serve for? For example, if I'm a carpenter, I'm going to do carpentering. If I'm a psychologist, I'm not going to go to Home Depot to buy a door and put it, install it. It's going to end up being wrongly installed, and it's going to take a whole day. That's why you have a carpenter to pay him for that. Interdependence is give the person the fair value of what he is worth serving for. This ends the fear of money moving, territories moving, emotions moving for the service of all of us. When a person is stuck in there, he usually ends up outside of that cycle. In the didactic workshop, we work through a process that I call life's transcendence. And they do it for 3 months. They fill up a sheet in which we fill up what is our life's foundation. A lot of people say, I come here to be happy. Okay. Life's foundation. What is the most foundational thing that I'm existing for? What am I here for? What is my mission of life? What do I come here for? Obviously, you ask that for people. You ask that to people in any level, and they take a step backward and they're like, what am I here for? It's not possible that 70,000 billion people that have come through the earth, just 100% have come about with something really transcendent. Those are the ones that paid attention to their genetic, their memories. They opened up their mouths. They weren't embarrassed. It came out, and throughout, a lot of people organized something important. It's not possible that most of us, or the rest of us, are just stuck in there because I'm ashamed, this is going to be dumb. But if you don't pay attention to yourself, who's going to pay attention to you out there? That's the first thing that we look at, or fundament, or foundation. And afterwards, we look at the options that we have, the fundamental options. And then, who is this for? Who am I going to give this to? And then the transcendence comes. How am I going to give this to people? And then comes the mission. My mission is to give this to people, or I came to earth so that this that I'm giving works. And then we have our goals. How am I going to do it? The achievements, which are the things that maintain this. How do we work on the endocentric school, or in the endic school? The first, which is reception of information, has to do with the creation of communication. How am I emitting words? What does yes mean? What does no mean? What does mine mean? In what situations? And the baby starts to detect all of that. In the second part, in the increment of intelligence, we start creating symbols, letters, things, where we start speaking, where we start talking. The muscles in the larynx and the pharynx are developed. We emit sounds, and they are associated with more complex communication schemes. And the last one, the fusion, is a pre-verbal reality. The person starts thinking about what he's going to say. How is he going to communicate? What he's going to communicate. And that's where the learning starts, through the same three processes. We teach people how cognitive parts are arranged and developed, how the theory of restriction works. We bring out of the aspects that repressed us or restricted us, and how nowadays I'm restricting my own self from those aspects. And we usually start suffering even though mom and dad are not there. We still feel the same way, and we detect those patterns, In this case, we do explorations of personal meaning, and we bring out the impressions of experience of all the things that brought you to stay on those restriction states. Because those restriction states, in the end, don't let you see which is your foundation of life.